FURIA have started out this season on an absolute heater. Through two events, they are undefeated in South America, and they've already qualified for the Birmingham Major. Today, I want to talk about their dominance so far this season, how they have dominated historically, and what they have seemingly adjusted this season to put themselves in as good a position as ever to win a major this season. On the pitch here, Yan point of view against Novus AV, who have had a pretty good season so far, especially Kaio. And I know that we're immediately getting off the rails talking about not the team the video is focused on, but Kaio still out here hooping. This is a game 5, one of the deeper series that Furia have had this season. Like we said in the intro, undefeated. They did forfeit, I think, like literally the first matchup of the season in Open 1, but let's not count that because they definitely would have beat whatever team that was, as Royales is going to take a poor challenge. It's going to pop all the way back to the other side of the net here. Like we were saying, Furia have been dominant. They have upped their statistics, shooting, scoring, they're saving more, and for those of you who don't know, or just a little refresher, after running into hurdles with their previous roster, this team opted to discard card from the roster and picked up Drufino. Yan and Lostt stick together, and Drufino, who was absolutely lighting things up for Crew Esports, and look at this attempt from Yan, who is unable to slot that topside after taking off backwards for that shot attempt. They pick up Drufino. Last season, they go 3-6 in regionals. Complexity took one off of them. Team Secret took one, and the third team would have been whatever Swift, Astramic, and Bims were last season. Ninjas in pajamas. They go top 8 in Copenhagen, top 4 in London, top 6 at the World Championship, and had a pretty solid run in the FIFA E tournament this offseason, although we don't fully count that because it's a bunch of pickup teams alongside a couple of our full rosters, like Furia representing Brazil. This season, what are the positives? Drufino has been much more involved in the offense as he tries to go for the pogo there, and then look at Yan is going to beat Alpe hard in the corner and gets the off-ball bump, something that they have been doing very well this season. And Drufino is more involved in the offense. His goals and his shot attempts per game are up. He actually led the team in goals in the Open 2 playoffs, which is a great sign for a player who looked his best on Crew Esports when he was dominant offensively, but last season Furia asked him to do a lot of glue stuff. He's very physical, leads the team in demos, and was commonly stuck back defensively when Lostt and Yan were trying to put stuff together on the offensive end. Reminds me of a player like Chronic and what he was asked to do last season for a Gen G roster. And Lostt is a player who is always let me save my Lostt notes. Look at this from Yan, just always doing crazy stuff. Let's actually tap this back a couple more seconds here to watch this whole possession. He's going to take the boost, bait Alpe into the turnover, somehow sticks with this one, really gluey, gets the pass over to Lostt, who doesn't want to overcommit, and then watch Yan here. He's going to get the catch, uses his momentum to turn back to this one, and somehow gets an extra little touch out of that, just really forcing Novus AV to scramble on defense. Yan has one of the rarest traits of any top-tier player in the RLCS, the ability to constantly beat one or two men and break down defenses by himself. And let's actually come back to Lostt. While we're on the topic of Yan, Yan has been incredible over the course of his entire career. We all remember the shot against Carmine Corps from the 22-23 World Championship. But outside of that, Yan can sometimes falter on the biggest stages. I think back to the World's playoffs. He shot a combined 8 for 62, which is 13%, and that includes an 0 for 10 poor performance against KC in the seeding. It includes a 2 for 19 against BDS. Just not what you want from your cornerstone player. And it kind of it reminds me of like, do you remember when Kyrie Irving hit the shot against the Warriors to ultimately win them an NBA title, and then for the next couple of seasons everybody was like, oh, but you know, Kyrie hit the shot, and it's like, yeah, but how long can you coast on that memory? You know what I mean? And recently Kyrie has really turned it around, but my point is that I think Yan needs to have another big moment here outside of just completely dominating a Swiss with FURIA to continue to have him at the tippity top of best players in the world as Alpe. Poor turnover here. Lostt is going to force him into a tough spot, and Yan is going to sink the dagger into the heart of Novus Avi here, who ended up going to round 5 to qualify. Now, we were talking briefly about Lostt, and I think we're going to save some of those thoughts for whatever game we're going to watch next here, but it's been really cool to see that Lostt is continuing to be kind of a fixture for this team, and I was curious. I knew the score line, but I was curious to see how on earth Novus Avi was possibly going to score from this position, and it's because Yan is going to rip one into his own net. So heck of a shot for Kaio there to get on the scoreboard. Let's talk a little bit more about Lostt and about what we are seeing from this team from an overall perspective statistically that really stands out in our next game. Where else can we go to talk about Lostt in big moments other than Champions Field? This is the lower round 1, game 7 against Space Station Gaming. Hey, look, it's LJ. I didn't know that he was on this roster. It is kind of weird, as an aside, that we don't see LJ on the SSG with the Sparkles boost anymore. I actually saw him rock it in one of their like group stage games, but of course, you know, there's the controversy right now with Nas wearing the Carmine core. I don't think that we're going to see LJ rocking the SSG decal anymore. Let's hope that Ultimates get something similar that he can rock. But in the meantime, his powers have shrunk about 7% because of not having the decal, I think. But now that the scoring has been opened up, let's quit this aside and talk a little bit about Lostt, who I think has a similar makeup to a player like Exotic, where especially last season, he's had a little bit of a stinker so far this year by his standards, but what he came to be known as on BDS and Carmine Core before was this player who you kind of, when you were naming the players, he was kind of the third that you named, but then you look at the stats and you're like, man, this guy actually scores quite a bit. And you think about the ability Exotic had to kind of take over specific series, and we're going to see Lostt here with a beautiful attempt. It's almost like, I wonder if he was trying to go for the shot here. I think he was, but he leaves it just a little high, and the drop off for Jafino is exactly how you would want to draw it up. But Lostt has this ability to, he's the second best offensive player, right? Or at least the one who is asked to do the second most behind Yan. Last season and this season, he is in the middle of the team in assists and goals, and both seasons has led the team in saves, and he's actually increased that mark this season in both his saves and shots for what it's worth. But he's one of those players who just can kind of take over, and I think that's exactly what you need next to a player like Yan, who we talked about his ability to fade in these big moments. I think ultimately you're going to need Yan to kind of improve if you want to really contend with the best teams in the world, especially in the form that we see from teams like NRG and Carmine Core. But the same can be said for Lostt kind of showing up in these big moments and being a player who can shine on both sides of the pitch. Going to get up to this one. Almost got a great clear there. And so far, SSG really have had FURIA trapped in their own side. But don't worry, Lostt is going to get this one punted out and tries to rotate back in here. We see from FURIA, especially Lostt on the defensive end, he'll kind of rotate a little bit wide. This FURIA team is always looking for breakouts, transitions from their own defensive box. And let's see what Lostt's going to do with this one. Little boost is actually going to keep this one in their possession and allow Jorfinho to yeet that one to the other side of the pitch here. And yeah, just one last thing on Lostt. He's kind of just like that unsung hero, similar to Exotic. Before he had got, you know, the world's MVP, he was one of those players who, you know, when you're naming people, you sometimes can forget about him. It's like, oh, FURIA and Yan. But, you know, Lostt is really able to get it done offensively as well. A lot of space here. Smartly is going to back off as Chicago is going to punt this one. Free ball for Yan. Catches perfectly in his own back corner and is going to get dunked very hard. But it seems like FURIA are kind of okay with this so far. And also this is what this SSG team were really predicated on last season, the ability to catch. And what on earth happened here? I think, who was this? Was this Chicago? No, Hoxer. What happens here? Just kind of, I guess, was thinking the challenge was going to be a little bit higher, and Lostt is just going to slide it right underneath of him. Let's talk about overall stats. So far this season, FURIA have upped the ante in their goals for per game compared to their 2024 stats. They've upped their shots for and their saves. They've also increased their saves per game and their shooting percentage a little bit as well. Some of these numbers are kind of fractional, and, you know, if you're only up a percentage or whatever, does it really matter? But for a team who is running it back, and there's been a lot of discussion so far this season about whether or not teams can run it back and still be successful, it's good to see that FURIA have continued to up the ante. And again, to drive the point home, the fact that Jorfinho is more involved in the offense, I think about like an NBA situation with like the James Harden heliocentricity, where it's like, hey, PJ Tucker, all we want you to do is defend and then stand in the corner and shoot threes. And then when you actually kind of need PJ in big moments, it's kind of like, oh, well, or like Trevor Ariza, it's like, well, all you've ever asked me to do is shoot in the corner, and now you want me to generate my own offense. I feel like it's similar sometimes with the RLCS, where it's like, all right, Jorfinho, we want you to get demos and create off the ball for Yan, and then when you need him to step up in big moments, it's like, oh, well, we kind of haven't practiced this at all. So the fact that they're spreading the share more evenly, I think, is a good product for a good sign for them this season, as Lostt is going to 1-2-3 on the scoreboard to sink Space Station Gaming. After this, they're going to unfortunately fall to G2, who really had their number last season. And I'm really excited to hear what you guys' thoughts are on this FURIA roster. Do you think that we are going to get more of the same, where this is a team that is lingering around that top four, but that really is their season? Or is this 2025 year the one where they summit that mountain, follow in the Falcons' footsteps after getting the FIFA E offseason win, and we start to see these emerging regions start to really contend at the top level with Europe and North America? And of course, I think the caveat goes without saying, but they already are contending with North America and Europe. I mean, as individuals who are hoisting the trophy. Is this a season that we really start to see it? Let me know in the comments below. Guys, as always, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to me yap a little bit of Rocket League here. And until next time, guys, take it easy.